Well, how do you respond to people who say slavery was so yesterday, get over it? You people been free since 1865. What about my ancestors that came here for nothing? How do you respond to that?
I respond to that by looking again at the data and looking at the reality. And the fact that we have to deal with issues of structural racism. The reality of what's embedded not only still in law, but also in consequence in culture in American society are directly related to the consequence of slavery and this idea of supremacy and the fact that people and white men, and you look back to the data, you look back to the writings of that day, and in fact, everything that slavery was predicated on was the fact that white men said, we are better than black people. That allows us to enslave black people, and that sensibility still lives and is woven into the fabric of our culture. And you see it because of the reiteration of slavery into Jim Crow, into the mass incarceration of people of color. And you see it in so many other places as we deal with issues of voting, of our workforce, and other forms of law and culture that exist for us today. And I mentioned structural racism for a very specific reason, because that lives and breathes today in our society. It has created an architecture around which much of our society has been built, and even though laws have been passed, there are still customs, there are still folkways, and in fact, there are still ways that we see manifested. You just look at mass incarceration, something that we talked about earlier this morning, that we see its implications. At the same time, and I think when you read Michelle Alexander's great book about mass incarceration, we see this.
The New Jim Crow.
The New Jim Crow, that she talks about ways in which poor whites and poor blacks over the course of history have had aligned issues, but race has been used as the wedge to divide and to keep them apart and from advocating together for a way forward. Race cannot be ignored. Again, it is part of the founding, part of the DNA, and we still live with its ramifications.
Great, thank you.